So today we're going to talk about I'll say a few security features that Flutterwave has enabled on our dashboard to help individuals, small businesses, and organizations as they carry out their day-to-day activities using our Flutterwave for Business application. Okay. It's interestingly, right? I reckon a few of us have used our application. Oh, that's great. Thank you, Kumi. You can see it now. So we've built an amazing application, right? We've built an amazing tool to assist users on their day-to-day journey, their businesses, tools to we built a tool to assist users to accept payments, send payments, and the likes, right? But we have noticed over time that as users, as businesses, it's easy to fall prey or to be susceptible to, I'll say, some security-related challenges or some fraudulent challenges. And most times users fall prey to this because basic security features and the likes have not been turned on within their dashboard. And also because maybe users require a little bit more education on the tools that we have. So this session is to talk about those tools that we have within our dashboard. I'm going to try as much as possible to have scenarios, right, to assist us to understand better, right? So instead of speaking in mostly most technical jargons and the likes, I'll use scenarios to assist every person understand what we're talking about. So let's go to the meat of it. So at Flutterwave, right? Yes, let's assume you're a user and you signed up today, right? You signed up to use our fantastic application. After you've done that, okay, I'm going to use Rotimi. Now, Rotimi is a user who's created his business. He's created an account on Flutterwave for Business. Now, after he's done that, Rotimi's team, he works with, because now Rotimi is not very tech savvy. He has also hired a freelance engineer, right, to work, to set up his dashboard and do his integration on his application, on his website. Now, as Rotimi has started to accept payments and the likes, right, Rotimi has noticed that, some unauthorized payments have gone out on his dashboard. Now, there are tools that are within the dashboard that Rotimi could have enabled that would have assisted him to prevent falling prey to this kind of, I would say, security incident or this kind of fraudulent incident. Now we have two-factor authentication. Now, two-factor authentication, basically what this means is, besides the fact that what you know is your username and password, right? There is also another layer of authentication that is added that you can turn on your account that would enable you, that will add an extra, I'll say an extra lining of security or an extra lining of verification when you want to carry out activities. Now, two-factor authentication can be turned on for logins, it can be turned on for transfer, and you can either turn it on to either receive maybe just SMSs, receive the authentication code via SMS, via email, or also using an authenticator app as well on your mobile device. Now, in Rotimi's scenario, right, now what has happened is that someone has access to his account credentials and this person has moved funds. Now, because when the account was created, 2FA wasn't turned on, this means that a user can log into the account without an extra form of verification. As long as they have his username and password, they've been able to log into the account successfully, right? Now, if 2FA was turned on, he would have gotten a prompt over maybe email, SMS, or there would have been, or the user would have been asked to provide authentication, right? Using maybe the authenticator app when they were trying to log in. But because two-factor authentication wasn't turned on the account, the user was able to gain access successfully. Now, as a business, a small business owner, as a user of an individual dashboard, we recommend that you go to, when you log into your dashboard, you go to settings. Then on settings, you go to business preferences. On the business preferences within the security tab, you would see the screen that is being displayed. Now you can turn on two-factor authentication for login. We recommend that you turn it for login. And we also recommend that you turn it on for transfers as well. And we recommend that you turn, maybe you can either decide to use email or your phone number, right? Or you can decide to use both or the Authenticator app. Now with this, even when someone tries to carry out a transfer on your dashboard or even make changes on your dashboard, right? Let's assume you want to modify something on your dashboard. That user will be prompted to enter a two-factor authentication code before they can proceed. Yeah, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is, next thing we're going to, oh yes, like I said, because this is, the screen is clear, two-factor authentication for login, and you can turn it on for either email, for it to be sent to email or your phone number, and then also you can turn it on for authentication of transfer. So every transfer that comes into your account, ensure that you'll have to receive an authenticator code, which you have to enter for the transaction to be consummated. One other thing that I want to ensure that you guys turn up on and turn on your account as well is email. So you guys to turn on email alerts, right? Now, if your email is turned on, if your email notification is turned on, for every activity that goes on within your account, you will be alerted. So we want to implore you guys to set up your 2FA. I think we also have a blog post that can show you guys how to turn it on in case you have not already done that. Now, another thing that another fun fact about our dashboard is that you can receive payments using different methods, right? Or you can carry out, you can also carry out payouts using different methods. You can carry out payouts doing transfers from the dashboard, and you can also carry out payouts from the APIs. So I think we should play this video so you guys can understand first of all, and then I'm going to speak on it as well.
Yes, just going to play the video now so everyone can watch.
Money is the lifeline of any business. That's why at Flutterwave, we're constantly looking for innovative ways to help secure your funds at Flutterwave. Set up payout source on your dashboard. How do you set up your payout source? It's simple. Log into your dashboard, navigate to settings, navigate to business preferences, click on securities. You should be able to select the payout source from the options below. You can select dashboard payouts, you can select API, or you can select both. So whichever source you select will give you the function of being able to push payouts from that source and that source alone, ensuring your funds are secured in your Flutterwave environment.
Okay, so as the video has rightly okay, so as the video has rightly said, right now, one thing I want to educate us on is, as much as possible, I know that most times what users do is you want to turn on everything on your account, right? Try as much as possible to work with, I'll say, least privilege or least access, try to work with the least access possible within your account. Now, within our dashboard, there are different payout methods, right? You can either carry out payouts from the dashboard, carry out payout via APIs, right? Or you can turn it on to carry out payout via both channels. Now, if you do not need to carry out, now payout from the dashboard is when you log into the dashboard, go to transfers and then enter the recipient information, right? Now, but then the other method, payout via APIs, is typically when you have our APIs integrated to maybe an application or something of that sort, right? And then you can call those APIs from the application. Now you require an API, I would say an API key and an API secret to be able to consummate this transaction. We recommend that users do not turn on everything if you do not require to carry out payouts via all those channels. So only turn on what is required. I know for most small business users, you only typically carry out payouts from the dashboard. So try as much as possible to only turn on payouts from your dashboard. Now you should be able to see this setting from when you log into your dashboard, like the video said, when you log into your dashboard, go to business preferences and security. Now under that tab, you should be able to see the different payout methods, turn on what you require, and then you're able to proceed. Now, we've also added an extra layer of security as well, right? Because if you have the API payouts option turned on, we have also added an extra layer of security to ensure that that transactions are not initiated from random sources of origin, right? So what we will have done is that we have added an IP whitelisting feature to ensure that if that IP is not known to be associated with your API key, right, you would not be able to carry out a payout transaction. Now, yes, you may have gone to your dashboard and enabled payout, right? Payout via API. But if you haven't turned on, if you haven't whitelisted an IP, that transaction would not go through successfully. So even if you have whitelisted an IP and then you're initiating a transaction from a different IP entirely, that transaction will not go through. We have ensured that, as we have, I'll say the team sat back and thought about this, because we realized that the API users that have API payouts turned on are more susceptible to different forms of attacks, right? So we have tried to add this extra layer of security to say protect your business and protect your funds further. The next thing that we are going to talk about as well, okay, now this screenshot, so typically after an IP address is whitelisted, you should be able to see the IPs that you have whitelisted within the dashboard, right? If you want to change the IP as well, you should be able to do that from this tab. Yeah, so the next thing we're going to talk about is API key rotation. Now I'm going to paint a scenario, or use the Rotimi scenario that I used earlier. Now, Rotimi, like I said earlier, Rotimi isn't very tech savvy, right? He has employed the services of I'll say freelancer, right? To do his integration. Now, this person has access to his dashboard. This person has generated the API keys, right? And this person is done. Or even if it's an internal member of staff and the likes, right? But let's assume that those API keys are there. And then a couple of months later, now what he's realized, transactions have been transactions are being authenticated and via the API, right? Now, what would typically happen, or in most cases, what happens is that because API keys are not rotated periodically, right? Months, years go by, and the same API keys are what is available or tied to a user's account. Now, what happens is that, let's say a threat actor gets wind of those API keys, and then they use that to the disadvantage of the account holder, because they would then start carrying out transactions without, of course, authenticating those transactions on the API level. So that's why we also advise that users rotate their API keys periodically to ensure that even if someone has access to it, right? Even if someone has access to those API keys, once you rotate it, they will not, and you have other layers of security turned on within your account, right? They will not be able to carry out transactions without your authorization. Yeah, so I think one thing that we also want to talk about today as well is the roles and permissions within your account. Now, using the Rotimi scenario, now Rotimi, ideally, now what typically happens is that, or what we've noticed that people do is that they create an account and they share credentials amongst their staff, right? Which is not best practice. Now, Flutterwave for Business comes with inbuilt roles and permissions, right? That would allow you, when you're adding users, to be able to assign roles based off of what they require access to on your dashboard. Now, from the roles, we can see that there's an owner role, right? Therefore, with our scenario, Rotimi would be the owner of the account, right? And then there's an operations role. This person will have limited access to certain functionalities or functionality that just speaks to operations. Now, we also have a developer or IT specialist role. That person will have permissions or access to certain limited features that speaks to what is required for their day-to-day activities. Then also for a customer support, the person will have read-only access to certain things as well. Then there's a user, and then there's also an administrator, right? Now, all these roles have been created within the dashboard. So for those of us today that have users within our accounts, right, that have users within our dashboards, and we're currently sharing credentials, please, we implore you guys to make sure that those credentials are rotated, right? Now you change your credentials and then profile users based off of what they require access to within your dashboard, what operations they need to carry out within your dashboard. That way you'll be able to secure yourself and your business better. Yeah, so this is it for the dashboard now. But now one thing that we're going to also try to do within this session is we understand that users, so in as much as you're protecting your business, right? Now you could have carried out certain activities within the dashboard, but now on a day-to-day basis, whilst you're carrying out your business activities, we understand that there are threats out there. The threat actors are evolving with the way they carry out these attacks on individuals and on small businesses as well. So I think it will make a little bit of sense for us to also try to educate you guys on a few things to do to protect yourself and your business. So, so typically, right, when we talk about security, there are three tenets of security, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability, right? Now, this speaks to, this is typically called the CIA triad, right, in security. Now, let's think about it in Rotimi's business's terms, right? Now, his dashboard, his business, or his payment application. Now, for confidentiality, we have to ensure that the expectation is no one should gain access to that information or that data if they do not require that information, if it's not required for their day-to-day activities. So every single thing within his dashboard, everything within his business should be confidential and should only be accessed based off of determined access rights and determined need to have basis as well. Then integrity. Now, let's imagine that you're a business owner or you're a store owner, right? And then you carry a transaction is being carried out, and let's say the amount is 50,000 naira, and then at the end of the day, someone maybe modifies this while the transaction is going through, and then eventually you end up with the person pays 50 naira, but then it gets to you, and then it gets to when the transaction gets to you, it says that it's 50,000 naira. Now, of course, the integrity of that transaction has been violated. Right, and then availability. Imagine that you're trying to do it. Imagine Rotimi's payment. People are trying to make payments on Rotimi's website, and then his website is unavailable. Right. The expectation is that all controls that are implemented within your organization should speak to these three tenets of information security. We should ensure that information is confidential. Right. We should ensure that integrity of the data of your data is not compromised, and then ensure that your application is always available at every given time to provide access, to provide the needs that it's been determined to provide. Now, for example, like this, from what I can have shown here. Now, for example, we're talking of this the data within Rotimi's environment. We have James as a cyber criminal, right? Now, James should not gain access to Rotimi's information on any grounds. You should not gain access to the business information. And he should not be able to modify the information for malicious intent, right? And then he should not be able to make the system unavailable, right? But then, because he's a threat actor, he will continue trying, right? But then it's up to Rotimi and his business to ensure that controls are in place, to ensure that once he tries, however he tries, he's not able to get into the system. We're going to be talking further on different security threats, right? That day-to-day, that regular organizations face on a day-to-day basis. Now, let's talk about insider threats, right? Now, an insider in this case can be maybe a member of staff, an ex-member of staff, a vendor, someone you've worked with or something of that sort, right? That have access to your, I'll say, company information that would then try to either misuse it, either intentionally or unintentionally, right? Now, your members of staff can be a source of insider threat. Because, for example, let's say they've received a link that they're not sure of, and then they click on it. Now, that would then crystallize that risk, right? So, the best way to ensure that users are more susceptible to insider threats is to ensure that you continually, for example, members of staff have exited, please take those people out of the system, right? Ensure that you have password rotation, ensure that you carry out continuous awareness for your members of staff. So because you can invest in the most fantastic tools out there, you can invest in, you can have all the security controls, but if the people, right, that are supposed to be using these tools on a day-to-day basis are not security conscious, they will still fall prey. And then at the end of the day, your organization will still fall prey to what you're fearing. Then we're also going to talk about with the password attacks. Now, there are different forms through which password attacks can occur within an organization. We have different kind of password attacks, as man-in-the-middle attacks, brute forcing, and the likes, right? That's to name a few. Now, the expectation one way to typically protect yourself against this is that try to use complicated password. Try to use not easy to guess password. Ensure that you do not use the same passwords for different accounts, right? Most especially, do not use the same passwords for your work and personal account. Do not use the same password, because at the end of the day, that means if one gains access to your account, they should be able to gain access to everything. Try to have two-factor authentication turned on all of your accounts, because one thing is for them to get in, right? But if you have two-factor authentication, that would deter them to go in further. Then we also have farming, right? Now, farming is sort of, I would say, it's a kind of can be likened to a phishing attack as well. But now with farming, what will happen is that a user will be redirected to a malicious site, right? Now, when the user is redirected to a malicious site, this is typically done when a malicious code is installed within the user's computer. So users should try as much as possible. Now, what can protect us from this is having the best or having up-to-date antivirus solutions, anti-malware solutions installed within our devices. Now, there's phishing, right? I understand that we're all busy on a day-to-day basis, but try as much as possible to be very, very, very wary of clicking on links that you are not sure of. You receive an email, try to inspect the sender address, right? Try to make sure that that email is from a legitimate source. Now, those sender addresses can also be spoofed, but if you receive an email that you are not sure of, and even if the email has a button, right, try to hover on the button, try to hover on links. Do not just click on them. Because what will typically happen, maybe you click on a link and then it will redirect you to a site where you have to enter your information, and then from there, the threat actors will steal your information, your business information, your credit card information, and all of that, right? Then there's also social engineering. So all of these are, I'll say, forms of social engineering as well. But imagine, so what typically happens is that I'll say the threat actors will typically trick you to providing information. Now, a typical scenarios, things that happen in Nigeria, I know that there are cases where maybe you get a link to say, hi, click on this link to vote for my baby or something, right? You click on that link and then maybe they'll have you re-authenticate and enter your username and password to a certain site. After you've done that, a few moments later, you realize that you've been locked out. Now, if you do not have two-factor authentication on your dashboard as well, you can be susceptible to this, right? Because you would, let's say, someone can send a link or something that looks that looks valid, and then you click on it, or maybe let's say something there can be posts on maybe random blogs or something, or people can typically say, hey, if you have an issue with your account, click on this link to provide information, will assist you. Please do not click on links like that. Flutterwave would not ask you to provide your username and password at any given time. So try as much as possible to watch out for things like that and be very, very security conscious. Now, for physical security, I know that a lot of us do not typically work, we may not have physical office spaces, and maybe we need to leave the comfort of our homes to work in certain spaces as well, right? Try as much as possible to ensure that your laptop has, or your device has, a lockout policy or something, right? You can set your laptop to lock maybe every 1 minute or something if you're not using it, or have a screensaver. Ensure that when you stand up or whatever, it should be second nature to always lock your laptop, right? Now, for those of us that have physical office spaces, that make sure that whilst we're in the office, we do not have individuals walking around unattended without ID cards, right? Our guests should always walk around with someone. Don't have people gain access to your sensitive areas within your office space. And then tailgating as well. Let's assume that you have biometric access or a form of access control within your space, and then someone just comes in and another person just follows them. So try as much as possible to watch out for things like this. Then then there's malwares. Of course, we know there are different kinds of malware. There are worms, there are Trojans, there are keyloggers and the likes, right? To name a few. So try as much as possible and ensure that you have an antivirus solution. An antivirus, I'm going to say antivirus because yes, that is what most of us are used to, but try as much as possible to get a proper antivirus solution with valid signatures, because this can take you from a lot of things, ranging from malware, ranging to ransomware as well. Because I don't think you'll be able to continue your day-to-day activities as a business if your device has been encrypted and you're asked to pay a ransom, right? I know that in some cases, some people just get, when they weigh the cost of paying the ransom, they'll just either proceed to purchase a new device. But then at the end of the day, right, imagine if you have a lot of information within that device. Imagine if these are your company's servers that have been encrypted, you will not be able to, you'd have lost man hours, you would lose your, you'd have lost, I'll say man hours, you'd have lost revenue and all of that, right? So try as much as possible to ensure that you have antivirus solutions and endpoint security solutions that can protect your device, protect all your servers, right? So they are not easily hijacked or infected with malware. And then also carry out patch updates as well within your systems, right? To ensure, and when I say antivirus solution, please not the kind that will go and buy a computer village that is not licensed and all of that, right? Because I know, yes, things are expensive and the likes, right? But let's try as much as possible to ensure that we have valid and licensed antivirus solutions installed within our devices. And then there's also URL hijacking. And what would typically happen within URL hijacking, which is also almost the same thing as also known as typo squatting. Let's assume that there's, of course, we know google.com, right? Now, the website is google.com. Someone goes and purchases another domain that changes the zeros to changes the O's to zeros. Now, what would happen in this case is that you would assume that it's a valid domain, right? You go click on it, and then maybe they've even done a dump of Google's main page or whatever within that site, and then it will look as though it is valid. Now, this typically, I know that there are cases where internet banking applications, financial institution applications, and the likes, even maybe even social media applications have been replicated and then have been replicated, and then users will click on it and provide information, and then they would no longer have access to their account after, or the threat actors will gain access to their personal data. Yes, so further, there are further tips that we would like to share. Now, these tips speak to, can I have the next slide, please? So yes, now I had mentioned ransomware earlier, but one of the easiest thing that make sure that you receive an email with a link. Do not click on it if you're not, do not click on links, right? Then ensure that you back up your data continuously, because this would save you in case you eventually fall prey. Back up your data regularly, and do not plug in USB drives to USB ports, right? You do not know where that USB drive has been. So try as much as possible, right, to ensure that you do not plug USB drives to your computer. Then let's assume you are traveling, right? Please do not, even though you're not, even on a day-to-day basis, when you go work from places that you see they have free Wi-Fi and the likes, try as much as possible to do not connect to Wi-Fi that you're not sure, or Wi-Fi networks that you're not sure of. Even if you're to connect, and carry out activities, make sure that you do not connect to maybe your banking application and the likes, right, without using on public Wi-Fi, right? Please try as much as possible to maybe invest in VPNs as well, because this adds a layer of security to your computer, to your as an actual layer of security. And then as much as possible, you go less, as in for those of us that are students and the likes, right, or those that share devices with navigation, do not log into your personal email on a shared device, right, on a public computer as well, right? Because of course, most times you may forget, or you may even have saved those credentials, or someone can access your account from there. Then, yes, I mentioned with phishing, right? You receive an email, please check and check and check, just to be sure that you're not clicking on it, that it's a valid email. Do not click on links that you are not sure of. because that's, of course, that's how people gain access to your organization. And then avoid clicking on links sent by strangers. I think cannot be overemphasized. Then do not download or install applications from unauthorized sources or from sources that are not verified. I know most of us are fond of buying tools and the likes from or random resellers. Do not install those tools on your computer. All those cracked software. Please try as much as possible not to utilize them. Because you'll be introducing the vulnerabilities to your device. Then for your passwords, try as much as possible. Do not use the same password I had mentioned. And then do not use things like your date of birth, your child's name, your favorite football club, and all of those things, right? Because people can easily deduce those, and you'll be susceptible, you'll eventually be susceptible to attacks through that. Then, of course, for your organizations and even your personal emails, right? Your personal emails, please do not use it for personal activities, yes, so just for business purposes as well. Because at the end of the day, you can be letting someone know, hey, I work here, and then threat actors can then use that information as well against you. Then if you believe that you have been hacked or something, reach out to your IT team. That's for us that have organizations. And then let's assume that you also your device has been infected or something. Please take that device offline. Right? Do not make sure that device is not on the internet so that the virus or whatever has been propagates within the network. Yeah. So now within Flutterwave as an organization, we've invested in some security certifications over the years. We even before our regulators and the likes had asked for other financial institutions as ourselves to have certain certifications. We had already done that years before. Now, the reason why we had to do this was because we had to ensure that we were meeting certain standards. We had to also check ourselves to ensure that our security practices were up to par by industry standards, right? So if you have the resources, try as much as possible to ensure that your organization is certified in certain standards. Now, standards are become certified to ISO 27001 for information security management systems, ISO 22301 for business continuity as well. Then if you do card transactions, you can also be certified to PCI DSS as well. Now, try as much as possible to invest in awareness trainings for your staff, right? Because I'm going to say this, people are weakest link. You can have the best tools, but if people are not sufficiently trained on security practices, they would fall prey, and the tools may just be as well be useless within the organization. And try to collaborate with regulators and key players within whatever ecosystem that you're playing in. For those of us in the airline space, of course, IATA, financial services, of course, we know the financial, the providers and the likes, right? Try as much as possible to collaborate with these regulators, because I reckon that information and the like can be passed easily. If there's an industry-wide security incident, they would also announce this as well to you. Yeah. Next slide, please.
Yeah, that was your last slide.
Oh, I wanted to continue. So yeah, I think that is it from me. So it was nice talking to everyone today.
Thank you very much, Nuji. We're gonna, come back to you. Definitely, we've got questions already. So when it's Q&A, we're gonna come to you and you can answer questions. Thank you so much for what you shared. Obviously, it's valuable, and I'm sure our participants as well will see that. So we're going to go to safety tips for buying and selling online. And I'll be calling on our small business growth partner, Dami Lola, to take us on from here. Hi, Dami.
Hi, Rotimi. Thank you. Safety tips for buying and selling online. So I think hi, Nuji. Thank you so much. Fantastic presentation, honestly. I think our merchants are happy to know that there's a lot of security investment that Flutterwave has done on their behalf. These days, there's a lot of rampant, this is for merchants, getting scammed by their own customers. Customers in quotes, is really annoying. They tell them, we've sent you the screenshots. They go and forge screenshots. They know the format in which all the banks now use. And some look so real that you're like, how is this a fake alert, right? What the merchants don't know is that Flutterwave automatically cancels this out. One, if you own a Flutterwave store, checkout cannot be processed until that payment has been received. So that process of somebody sending you a fake alert, all those things don't even happen. You'll be sleeping. You automatically remove that from your head. You can be doing whatever you're doing. When the customer is ready, they will actually pay, process, and get their items. Another one is a lot of merchants use the APIs or payment links or invoicing, and that also works as well. You don't have to wait for any alerts. Once the person has sent the money, we receive it, it sends you a mail. Okay, this is order fulfilled, cancelled. If the payment doesn't come in, it shows pending or declined. So not a customer cannot even tell you, I've sent it, check. Even the account numbers attached to your Flutterwave accounts, if that money doesn't come in, it will not register on your dashboard. You say, we've not gotten it. They cannot forge a Flutterwave alert. You already know. If you can't see it, you can't see it. And then you automatically remove that aspect of your customer scamming you. Another thing is your two-factor authentication. I don't think banks even have that. It is your own personal thing for you to do. Flutterwave has a wallet where your money comes into. You cannot leave unless you give it the permission for it to leave and into any account that you want. Very, very important. And your information is safe. For me, the security for merchants is really this part. This is the bulk of the complaints that I get. A lot of customers just keep sending them fake alerts, all those things. And because they're just trying to make money, they're doing their best, they decide to trust the customer. And in the long run, they realize that they have been scammed. Till now, it just drives me crazy that people are trying to scam merchants. But yeah, I think for the bulk of it, those are the two most important aspects of security. Use a very strong password. Don't tell anybody anything. Even Flutterwave has a feature where you can add other people to your accounts as admin, users, customer care. They don't have access to the financial aspect of your account unless you allow that. That's if you trust the person so much. And a prompt will always be sent to you for two-factor authentication. You'll get it on your phone. That person is getting it. So you are even aware that a transaction is about to be done on your account. Nothing leaves your Flutterwave account unless you allow it to. So I think those are the major aspects of this. And I'm ready to take questions, I believe.
Yes, over to you for the questions. Can you see the questions, Dami?
Yeah, I'm trying to, it's in the chat box, yes?
No, the Q&A.
Oh, okay, see, yeah. What are API keys? Okay, so as a business that already has their websites, your own website, you want to do checkouts. You can't check out on your own. You need a payment gateway to help you fulfill payments or checkouts on your website. So when you have a Flutterwave account, you automatically have API keys. So all you have to do is give your web developer, or if you're doing it yourself, you integrate into your website and checkouts happens on your website. That's just what that is. Is there a difference between permissions for administrators and owners? Yes, there is. It's very explained. Once you go to that aspect of your dashboard, the explanation for all this are there. I think those are the two major questions I can see.
Yeah, so I think there's another one here. I think this one probably came earlier.
Can I use Flutterwave account for POS services? Yes, please. When you go to your dashboard, your left-hand side, you go to payments, you see POS, just request a POS and it will be processed.
Yes, thank you very much, Dami. Nuji, you might want to help us take this one. I just saw this one. I say is the 2FA selective? I mean, if I enable 2FA via email/phone, would that mean I can't use an authenticator app, or I can use both?
You can use both. Actually, it depends on what you have turned on your dashboard.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Trying to see if there are other questions. So we've answered all the questions we currently have now. So, Do we have more questions? We've answered Hezekiah's question. Okay. All right. Just trying to see. So if you have any questions, okay, Dominion said he missed the API explanation. Do you want to try?
Okay.
Just talking about the API keys.
Okay. So I don't know if you guys, Dominion, I don't know if you were listening when I explained API payouts, right? Now on the dashboard, there are different methods through which you can carry out payouts via it's either from your dashboard where you go log in and then enter the recipient information and then their bank details and all of that, right? Or it is done programmatically, which is through the APIs. Now, your API key is a form of, I would say it's a form of identification, right? It's a form of identification. It's a code that is used to identify your account within the application layer. Let's say to bring it down to our day-to-day activities, for example, Nigeria, it's like your BVN, right? Within so it's like your BVN within for identification as a form of identification, but now within the application layer, within your application, that API key is your identifier. Now, the API key has two parts. There's the public and the secret. So of course, one can have the public key, right? And let's assume they use a random secret key. If a random secret key is used, that transaction will not be completed because it is not, those two have to be merged and have to be valid for a transaction to be completed. I don't know if this explanation helps, right? But it's a form of identification for your account on the application layer.
Okay, thank you, Nuji. I'm seeing a question here from Kunle. So Kunle said, why is it difficult to get payment after I put my secret and public keys in an e-commerce store? Though the payment is not in naira but dollar, you always show decline anytime the customer tries to buy from the store. So Niji, I don't know if you can help with this, but I know Daniel is here as well from a CX.
Yeah, I think Daniel can answer that actually.
So hi Daniel. So Daniel is from our customer experience team, and he's also here to help with questions. So Daniel, can you give it a go? That may help, yeah.
Yeah, different things that could be happening. I need to know if you have actually processed an international payment before. The general thing that could be happening is you have not just opened up for international payments yet, which means you have to reach out to us for us to do that for you to make sure that you can receive international payments. Another thing that could be happening could be the cards of the people paying, your customers. They actually have to tell their banks to give permission for the cards to be used. That's what we mostly face. So it's one of these two things. And then you can just reach out to us to get that done for you. Yeah. And I'm sure that it's most likely that we haven't opened you up for international payments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dami. I'm seeing a question here from Stacy. Okay, Kunle said, no, I haven't processed international payment before, so I guess that's the issue. So Dami already offered you answers. Okay, so instead, so I'm trying to, I guess, am I able to permanently change my view back to V1 rather than V2, as there are more details in the customer transaction in V1 for me? So V1 here is the option. I don't know if Daniel can help with that.
Hi guys. Sorry, I'm just reading the question. I think the answer would be why would you want to change your view back to V1? I think that would be an adequate throwback question for this, because V3 basically it's a simplified version. It's a simplified dashboard and has all the features in V2 basically are simplified in V3. So I think if you can, just type why you would want to switch back to that.
So Chukwemeka has a question. He said, why has it been impossible for me to add my payout account myself on my account of late? I now have to contact Flutterwave customer care. Daniel, I guess this is you.
Yeah, I'll take that. So we are making some slight changes to the experience for every merchant on F4B, that's on Flutterwave for Business. So this is a temporary measure that would be reverted back to the old ways soon. So if you would like to make any necessary updates like phone number or anything, you could just reach out to CX.
Yes, so this webinar was focused on security. And I think for all other questions regarding your account, the best approach would be to send an email to the customer support team, or just call the customer care so that we can resolve it for you on the spot. We can't really get a lot of details from you on this webinar, right? So it's better to just have the one-on-one conversation with you and help you resolve all of the challenges. We've gone beyond time, all right? It's already past 1. We want to make this interesting one. So I want to say a big thank you to our speakers, Dami, Daniel, and of course, G, for helping out today, for add today. Thank you for the question you answered, and thank you for the presentation. It was very good, and we're sure we've learned it from today. All right, we've put the email address in the chat in the comment section. So please just send an email to us. We're going to get on it and answer your questions. And even if we have to call you, we'll call you to make this sorted. All right. So thank you. We'll see you at our next webinar. Just stay tuned. We're going to put all on social media via email as well, so you can see what we're talking about. Thank you. And please remain very, very security conscious. Security is very important, not just for your Flutterwave account, because we definitely want you to be secure on your Flutterwave account, but at the same time, all the things that you do online, your social media account, your bank apps, whatever you're doing, just ensure that you are very, very security conscious. It's profitable for you. All right, so thank you and see you next time. Bye.